are proud of the role that we played in the creation of the State of Israel, and we will certainly mark the centenary with pride.
This was what Theresa May had to say about the 100-year anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. But what exactly happened on November 2nd, 1917, and what was the Balfour Declaration all about? These 68 words were a historic promise given to the early Zionist movement by the British government for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Sir Arthur Balfour, then Foreign Secretary of Britain, wrote in a public letter to a famous British Zionist, Lord Walter Rothschild, which read,
His Majesty's government views with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country.
This was just what the Zionists were looking for, as outlined in the First Zionist Congress during its meeting in Basel, Switzerland in 1897. Zionism seeks to establish a home for the Jewish people in Palestine secured under public law. Earlier, Theodor Herzl, their founder, had failed to realize this purpose when he couldn't get support from the Ottomans or any other European ruler. But this declaration basically laid out the foundation for the State of Israel. And since the second part of the agreement, where it talks about protecting the civil and religious rights for non-Jewish communities in Palestine, was never implemented, it resulted in a great injustice towards the Palestinian people, as thousands of them lost their homeland with the creation of this new Jewish state, and the ones who remained are being treated like second-class citizens. I think the late British author and journalist Arthur Koester summed it up best when he said, "One nation solemnly promised to another nation the country of a third." What were they thinking? Well, you see, Great Britain was in the midst of World War I, and one of its biggest foes was the Ottoman Empire. So they employed the tried and tested strategy of divide and conquer. They were giving the Arabs the promise of complete and final liberation in return for rebellion against the Ottoman rulers. The Crown had decided Palestine's for the Jews, thus ensuring a perpetually divided Middle East. And 31 years after the Balfour Declaration, the State of Israel was founded. But it's not 100% certain that this was the initial goal of the British government. The results have brought devastating consequences to the Middle East. It paved the way for the longest military occupation in recent history and destabilized an entire region. So should the UK government be proud of this landmark letter? Or should they come to terms with the reality of what it's done?
Hey, Shalom, this is your brother Yuanathan. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Rakak Wadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. Now, the Bible has prophecies in it, and that is the primary thing that we ought to pay attention to, because that is how we discern what's happening around us. The Lord gave us signs to know, okay, this is what's going on. These people fit this category, these people don't. Now, I ran the video. I thought it was a pretty decent video. It was short, a couple of minutes, of, what the Balfour Declaration was, what it was about. And, that's how the State of Israel was created. And the so-called Jews, which they call themselves Jewish, meaning to be like, not the real thing. That's how they got back into the land. But the Bible paints a different depiction of how the children, those bloodline descendants, not converts, not people that converted to Judaism, how the bloodline descendants of Abraham, Isaac, then Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, it tells us exactly how they're going to go back into the land, and that they're not going to go back into the land until certain things happen. Also, when they do go back, it gives us a list of things that will be going on in the earth. All right? So let's go down that train of thought and use the precepts to prove what we're saying. All right, now something that's evident in the earth, even those who don't believe in the scriptures, they can clearly see that World War III is brewing, okay? What most people don't know is that this was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years beforehand. All right, so this is Joel, the 3rd chapter, and this is what the Lord said he's going to do before he returns, and what he's going to do in the midst of World War III. Okay, it's not called World War III verbatim in the scriptures, but it does talk about the third woe, meaning the third great destruction. Woe means destruction. All right, Joel 3:1, it says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," all 12 tribes, "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat." All right, the valley of judgment. All right, Yehoshaphat in the Hebrew. All right, they're off the coast of Iran, in that area, that region. That's where all the nations, the world powers, are going to be gathered, and even smaller nations gathered to fight the war of Armageddon. All right, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Now, most people know that are, really into the Bible. They know about the diaspora. Okay, the last, documented scattering of the acknowledgement that the people that were scattered were Israel would be 70 AD. Now, we know we were scattered during the transatlantic slave trade from the west coast of Africa, but in 70 AD, that's when it's acknowledged by everybody that that's the last time the actual Israelites were scattered. Okay, the Romans, they seized Jerusalem, they sacked the temple, and they were, scattered throughout the different provinces of Rome. Now, we're scattered unto this day. It's a part of the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, that we will be scattered. And what you got to ask yourself is, when are those curses supposed to be lifted off of Israel? Well, the curses aren't lifted until the kingdom of heaven is established. We know that pursuant to Revelation 22 and verse 3. It says, "And then there shall be no more curses," referencing the same curses that were written to the nation of Israel in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, when they broke that first covenant. Okay? The second covenant is going to be established when the laws are written within the inward parts of the nation of Israel, and they begin to govern the earth, and they become the sole superpower in the earth. All right, continuing on, "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." That took place. Now, when you're reading the scriptures and you're reading about these historical accounts and these things that would take place, they took place over vast amounts of time. Okay, to us it might be like, oh, well, it mentions this, and then it mentions that. That's hundreds of years apart. So you got to remember that the way the Lord perceives time is far different than how we perceive time. 1,000 years to us is a day unto the Lord. The scriptures tell us this. All right, continuing on. Oh man, hold on. Verse 4. "Yeah, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine?" So it's starting to list off nations that were involved in the demise of Israel in that scattering. Okay? "Will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head?" I mean, justice is going to be served for what they've done to the apple of the Lord's eye, his jewelry, his chosen people. "Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem," all 12 tribes, "ye have sold unto the Grecians." We know the Greeks, all right, Alexander the Great, that's what they call them. The Romans and the modern day European, all the same lineage of people. They're all Edomites, all so-called white people. So we were sold, our final captivity before the Lord returns, we will be sold into the hands of Edomites, the so-called white man, which the so-called black, Latino, and Native American people were sold into the hands of the so-called white man. I say so-called before I name these nationalities or whatever, because that is what we're called today, but the Bible calls these people by a different name. And for those who are new and don't know who I'm mentioning, who I'm talking about, we have to use these relative terms so that they can get the understanding. All right, verse 6, it says, the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border, from the land of Israel. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. As you did unto them, he's going to do unto you, which is why it's such an offensive thing to our enemies. When we are out on the highways and byways reading and bringing out these prophecies that, hey man, the Lord's going to recompense you for what you did. It's an offensive thing, because we're basically saying, hey, you're going into captivity, which the scriptures say that. Even in the last book, in Revelation, what does it tell you? I know, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed by the sword. And the Lord is going to bring these things to pass. We're simply the weather forecasters. But people hate us for it, and they're going to want to lay hands on us for simply telling them what the Lord is about to do. Okay? Verse 8, it says, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. See? He's selling the people. That's bondage. And they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord hath spoken. The Lord, all caps, meaning the Most High God, not his son even. The Lord said, this is the creator of Yahushua, who after he created Yahushua, he commissioned for Yahushua to do everything else. So, this is from the top that you guys are going into slavery. It is what it is. All right. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, verse 9 we're at. Prepare war and wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. So what you have is you have nations beating agricultural tools into weapons. That's to signify a militarization of the nations. And right now, what do you see? You see all the nations bulking up their military for World War III. Okay? Now, that was the point I wanted to get. But when you jump to what happens after this battle, and even in Joel 3, we read it, but I didn't really go into it. The Lord said he's going to plead with the nations because he's going to intervene within the midst of that battle. That's in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. But when we go to Micah, the 4th chapter, it's even written in Isaiah, that's almost verbatim. Micah, the 4th chapter, it lets us know what's going to happen after that great battle, right? And what you're going to see is the opposite of what we read in Joel 3. And there's some things, some key points. When we return to the land, there's certain things that must be happening for that prophecy to have come to pass. We don't get to go back into the land till that World War III has happened. All right? To the mark of the beast has been overcome by the elect. Man, there's so many things that aren't lining up for people to be in the Holy Land today calling themselves the actual people of God. Micah 4:1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. And these mountains represent governments. All right? And it shall be exalted above the hills, smaller governments. So the nation of Israel is going to be the top power in the earth. And it's going to elaborate on what that actually means. Okay? And it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths, for the law, the way everybody operates in the earth, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords. Now, this is the reverse of what we just read in Joel, the 3rd chapter. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. So they're taking weapons and making them agricultural tools again. And why is that? Well, it goes on to let us know. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So there's never going to be a war again. when the nation of Israel and the true descendants go back into the land, there's never going to be war again. Funny thing is, in 1948, when they went back into that same night, when they went back into the land, they were bombed that same night. Big violation in regards to prophecy. So they, that's a small aspect. It's not even a small, it's big. Because that in itself is a chink in the armor of all the lies that they've spent on the earth and they have people believe. That disannuls, hey, why are you sending these people? You're saying they're the chosen people and you're sending them all this money. You're doing all these different things, and you're justifying the evil that they do under the pretense that they're actually the people in this book, and they're not. They don't fit the prophecies, but nobody reads, so nobody contests these lies, because it wasn't, the Bible is for the prophets. So nobody, really opens it up and reads it to understand it, because really it's not for them. It's for a small segment of men in the earth. It's for the spirits that were with the Lord in the beginning. So when you got to ask yourself, World War II was a big battle and all of that, but does it outdo what happened with the deliverance of Egypt? Because when we go to it, we're about to go get it in Jeremiah. The scriptures tell us that people are going to forget about the deliverance, that when we go back to the land, it's going to be so great, and nobody's ever going to talk about the deliverance from Egypt again, because it's going to be so outdone by that final deliverance for the nation of Israel. All right, so this is Jeremiah 16 and 14. It says, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt." Now that was a great deliverance. Many miracles took place to where the Lord was magnified to his height. Alashajah, what they called him, that terrible demon-like power. He was magnified to a very, very high level. The nations feared him. The Lord took down the world power during that time, which was Egypt. What constitutes a nation being a world power? Basically, many other nations depend on them to thrive and survive. When the famine happened in the land with Joseph, many people from different lands had to come to Egypt to receive grain. They depend on Egypt to thrive. Okay? And the Lord took that world power down. It was so majestic and so great that it is mentioned unto this day. It was so majestic and so great that it's written about in the history. It's mentioned in other nations' history. All right, now let's continue to read here. Jeremiah 16 and 15. "But the Lord liveth," so that something is going to overshadow that. The splitting of the sea, the pitch black darkness, the killing of the firstborns, the complete destruction of their agricultural system, the decimation of a big portion of Egypt's military. Something has to overshadow that, and I dare I say World War II and the Balfour Declaration doesn't measure up to this. Because not only, when we go back to the land, is there going to be no more war and there's going to be peace on the earth. All the nations are going to be subject to the nation of Israel. But the Israelites themselves are going to have a different existence. They're going to be changed. It talks about them being immortal. The people in that land today, they're still human, man. They're still mortal beings. They live and die like the rest of us. They're not immortal. The Israelites are going to be immortal beings. They're going to be like gods on the earth. All right, this is verse 15, Jeremiah 16 and 15. It says, "But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers." Okay. So this deliverance that that's about to happen out of you know, primarily America and all the nations were being scattered, but the bulk of Israel was being gathered up here. It's going to outdo the deliverance in Egypt. And even when you read it, it's hard to even fathom what it looked like, right? So for the Lord to say he's going to outdo that, man, there's nothing that has come close in the earth in history that overshadows that deliverance. So again, there's so many things that just doesn't check out with these people that are in the land today. You understand? So just a quick lesson I wanted to do. I got some behind the scenes footage from camp last night. Apostle Cobb beautifully dismantled one of the protesters that came up by our camp. They had a big protest about the Gaza Strip. One of the protesters that came up and you know, trying to justify that they're supposed to be in the land, but neither one of those groups is supposed to be over there in that land. The people, the state of Israel, the Jewish people, they're not the actual people that's supposed to be in that land. They're not the bloodline descendants. And that land was promised to the actual bloodline descendants, which they're not. And the people over there in Palestine, it's not their land either. So we don't have a side. You know, both of those people are in the wrong. And the Lord's gonna make everything right. You know. But with that being said, Lord willing, the lesson was edifying. I know I've touched on this topic a bunch, but it's going to continue to be touched on because it's that time. All right, lies have to be unraveled, and we're gonna just can't overcome prophecy, man. So we're just gonna keep honing in on it and let the chips fall where they may. So with that being said, I'm gonna give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Kodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.